Доброго дня, вітаю всіх.
Good day, dear participants. We welcome you at presentation of the survey on exploding oldness and risk educations among parents and children. Thank you for participating. A couple of admin issues. In case of air radius announced, we will finish the event and will move to the shuttle. We also have simultaneous translation available. You can select channel 1 for Ukrainian language and channel 2 for English language. Today we will be presenting results of the survey, and until 1:55 we will have welcome words from our speakers, and after that we will have presentation of key findings of the surveys, and we will have 10 minutes for Q&A sessions from the audience. Let's start. Dear speakers, thank you for being with us, and I invite Mr. Munir Mamedzade, head of UNICEF representative in Ukraine. Thank you very much. Good day, Pane Minister.
With us, and let me start by thanking you and your team and Deputy Minister for leading that agenda for us and for your personal interest. Of course, Klaudia, my special appreciation for the partnership and engagement and support in this joint cause that we have together with the EU. This is actually partnership that we feel very proud because it is multi-stakeholder partnership. It brings together Ministry of Internal Affairs, as I mentioned, Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Education and Science, State Emergency Service of Ukraine, and of course UNICEF is pleased to be part of this critical undertaking. So together with partners that are present in this room but also beyond, UNICEF has been implementing programs on and behavioral change campaigns around explosive ordnance risk education for children since actually 2014. So it hasn't started just after full-scale invasion. It started actually from the beginning of the conflict in 2014 to mitigate the risk posed by landmines and unexploded ordnance. According to the government, I'm sure it will be mentioned repeatedly today that around 25% of Ukraine's territory is contaminated. And this contamination, which is extensive and quite unique in terms of scale, is actually causing regularly deaths, injuries and casualties, disabilities and trauma. And according to United Nations Human Rights Office, more than 120 children have been killed or injured by mines and explosive remnants of war since the full-scale invasion. In 2023 and 2024, with support of partners again and in excellent partnership, and I have witnessed some of them traveling to the actually Hramadas and locations close to the front line where I have seen mobile teams also delivering this exceptional work. We have managed to cover over 8 million people with behavioral change messages on mine safety. Over 1.5 million children and 500,000 caregivers were engaged in activities and learned about safe behavior. We have launched new materials and a course so that teachers and emergency workers can have required knowledge and skills on the subject, how to deliver this subject, particularly for children, for new generation, for younger children, but also to adolescents. It is important for us to collectively recognize the fact that awareness itself doesn't always result or equals safe behavior, meaning that delivering one lecture or printing one poster or having one ad on this subject is not enough. So we need to make sure that this work is continuous effort, it is done systematically, and we address the issues around behavior and not only the knowledge. And this is why UNICEF continues and will continue to collaborate with partners to foster a culture of safe behavior and promoting safe behavior among children, adolescents, and their caregivers. Because by educating children, we know that we prevent accidents, we promote behavior in affected communities, safe behavior of course, and support overall well-being and development of children in those regions. So this is critical work of UNICEF engagement and broader efforts on child rights protection at the time of the war. It is child rights to health, child rights to safety, ensuring that they can grow in a secure environment, free from the fear and consequences of explosive ordnance. Let me stop here. I'm looking forward to see findings of the joint also research and discussions on the way forward. Thank you. Дуже дякую.
Дякую, пане Munir.
Thank you, Mr. Munir. I would like to pass the floor to Ms. Klaudia Amaral, Head of Office of Humanitarian Support of EU.
Mr. Munir, all the colleagues here present and dear guests, good afternoon. It's really my pleasure to be here today. And thank you so much, Munir, for the remarks that you have already done, not only in terms of appreciation of the partnership, but really in terms of highlighting what brings us together here and the importance of us looking at this study. So no doubt that the presence of landmines and unexploded ordnance are a critical issue and a very dangerous one here in Ukraine, and it is therefore a priority for the European Union and a pleasure at the same time for us to be able to support our partner UNICEF and the authorities and the rating group in a comprehensive study on mine awareness amongst the parents, the caretakers and the children, because at the end of the day the safety of the children are key for all of us and their well-being. And I'm very pleased to see that with this study there's some uniqueness in it, not only in terms of the scope and the scale, the fact that they were able to interact not only with the parents but also directly with the children, and also going quite in detail in terms of rayon level. And I think this allows for a lot of the findings and the recommendations to be quite rich in the discussions and informative to others that are dealing with with the priority of the landmines and exploded ordnance. So it's really for us a satisfaction to be able to support UNICEF and the partners and the government in this. So we, as I was saying, we will continue to support humanitarian partners in mine risk education activities, in non-technical surveys as we have done, in mine action activities that also focus on livelihoods. So we are very much aware that this is a critical area and that requires a humanitarian intervention from our side. And as we were saying, mine risk education for children that helps to save lives, and we really believe and trust that this study is of added value and an important contribution in the collective effort in making sure that children have their well-being and the future ahead of them. So I am as well looking forward for the findings and the discussion. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Дуже дякуємо, Клавдія, за слова підтримки. І до слова
Thank you, Ms. Klaudia, for your welcoming words, and I pass the floor to Minister Ihor Klymenko, Minister of Internal Affairs of Ukraine. Thank you, Mr. Munir, Ms. Klaudia. Thank you for the research team who are presenting today's survey. I had an opportunity to exchange a couple of words with them. Like for several years, we're already working together with UNICEF on exploding ordinance risk education and on building up the safety culture among children. We understand that this kind of behavior is not achieved in months. It's a matter of years and years, and this survey shows the current situation among school-age children, but we also now start seeing how our preschool children reacting to such threats, and within this scope of this joint initiative, UNICEF provided to the units of State Emergency Service and National Police 15 mobile vehicles with Ihor class trainers that can work all around Ukraine. And we cover currently with these activities of safety classes 1,200 schools, and more than 80,000 children passed these lessons. And we can say that the area of our dangerous regions unfortunately increased because with certain territories in Kharkiv Oblast. That's why we now moving activity of these mobile training centers a little bit further away from the contact line. We are always conducting communications on safe behavior, especially during the summer holidays and winter holidays. So this is another campaign that we recently initiated, and as a result of the survey we see that in the higher risk zone there are boys, teenagers. They more prompt to take risks, to some adventurous behaviors. That's why we giving special our attention to this age group. And another thing that kind of makes us to look at the problems of difference, that altruism, which is the primary driver of dangerous behavior of children. Children are prompt to help, because when the dog went to the minefield, usually child is prompt to follow the dog, and without understanding that if there is one mine, there can be another mine nearby, or if somebody sustained injuries because of explosive ordnance, children want to close in and provide help, and however they're supposed to call for help and film the accident. Only 50% of children will said that they will move in and start helping. This is possibly a possibility for dangerous behavior. So because of experience of mining in Chernihiv and Kharkiv Oblast, so the density of mining can be up to 2.5 mines per square meters. These mines, for example in Izum district, people are banned from entering forest because they are filled with anti-personnel mines, and also we cannot usually enter those forests with our deminers, because Russian forces continue attacking them, and at the same time we see that civilian population is returning to this area. So we will need to work with them to higher extent, explaining the threat of exploding ordnance. So this survey helps us to understand the psychology of behavior of the child. We also collect this information when we conducting our lessons in our mobile training centers. So, and this also influence our next trainings, and when we constantly updating the training program with most recent inputs, and I want to thank UNICEF in Ukraine for support in conducting additional courses for our personnel, because millions of our people, unfortunately, after the war will end, will be staying in the risk zone, in the danger zones, because they will be returning to the occupied territories, and that's why this work will take at least 10 years. That's why I want to say words of thanks for support, thanks for the survey that was conducted, and for our joint effort in protecting every child that hypothetically can be in danger.
Хотіли перейти до презентації.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Now I would like to discuss key study results. It's important to note that the study proposed by UNICEF with the rating group is quite comprehensive. There is a detailed report which will be published after this presentation. And now we would like to focus on key risk groups and which factors have impact on shaping risky behavior. I'd like to turn it over to Tetyana Tkalych, Marianna Tkalych, Doctor of Psychology, Professor, Director of Rating Lab. Thank you, first of all, for this opportunity, for helping us to engage in this. Project helped us to conduct unprecedented and really important study on the children 14 to 17 years of age. We surveyed 25 respondents. It's 12,150 children, and the same number of parents is in Zhytomyr, Kyiv, Zaporizhzhia, Mykolaiv, Sumy, Kherson, and Chernigiv regions. We also covered Ukraine nationwide to compare contaminated and uncontaminated areas. So we have a representative sample for children 14-17. It's about 4,000 respondents. It's also a booster sample. It was our key accent on rayons, which are mined according to SAS maps. It's over 10,000 surveyed parents and children. We surveyed at least 300, 400 parents in each of those 27 rayons and the same number of children. So we have representative sample at the level of each rayon, and we can compare them, and we have a portrait of those rayons, which is really important information for rescue services. I'll brief you on the methodology of our survey, and Tetyana will present the results. What it covered, development of the proprietary tests about mine awareness and identifying potentially risk behavior for the children aged 14 to 17, and also quantitative survey of children and parents by telephone for parents and online for children. This method was approved on multiple occasions and it gives a good representation. In surveying parents, more than 100 interviewers took place from generated numbers, and they surveyed those parents who agreed, and then they got a reference to the test for children. We controlled those tests, whether the children passed that test independently, because it was a survey. Of course, parents could help them, and we could not, we wouldn't be able to identify whether the results are credible. There was a question whether they passed that survey independently. 5% of children said that the parents helped them, so we dropped those data, and Another step was focus groups with children. It was qualitative survey. We selected those kids at the stage of quantitative survey. These are children who demonstrated risk behavior. They were in high-risk group, and the focus was on the boys aged 14-17. A few words more about our test. This test of children 10 to 17 was developed by the professional psychologists and researchers, and Svitlana was engaged. She is the head of psychology department at Zaporizhia University. Myself as the psychologist and experts from social and behavioral changes from UNICEF. We also got good feedback from the ethics committee of Psychology Association in Ukraine and Psychologists at Work, headed by Professor Doroshkin. The structure of our test, which children passed, we had 46 criteria, so it's quite long, and it demonstrates high reliability of data because we approached it at different angles, both knowledge and behavior. In terms of knowledge, it was 20 criteria. It assessed the ability of a child to identify hazards and potentially dangerous situations, and what's most important, to know the safe algorithms of actions, like the minister mentioned, because children often don't know that algorithm, but and for behavior we had 26 criteria. It's to have awareness is not enough. If we are talking about altruism, I have a knowledge, but if there are things which I value, if especially I'm a teenager, that's why we had more of those criteria, 26, and we assessed the inclination of kids to risky behavior. In terms of trauma they can get. We studied their behavior towards EO, and in general, if they are inclined to risk behavior, they will demonstrate it towards EO as well. I will not dive into the procedures to save your time. Let's discuss the results. The only thing I mentioned, we used cluster analysis, which allowed us to single out typology. We did not just define levels, we identified the kids according to the level of knowledge and behavior. So according to that, we split them into three groups, low, mid, and high levels of risk in terms of awareness and behavior with regard to explosive ordnance. I'll turn it over to Tetyana Skrypchenko, Deputy Director of Rating Group. Thank you. I'm grateful to all our colleagues and partners who helped us implement this study. The team of the ministers helped us a lot to conduct that full-scale survey. It's 25,000 kids and parents, so we're really happy that we were able to conduct that. So the representation level for each rayon out of 27 rayons, contaminated rayons, according to SES, we can compare the rayons, and we can see the closer is the rayon to the hostilities line, the higher is the awareness and mine knowledge. The kids from Zaporizhia, Kharkiv, and partially from Sumy region, they demonstrated a high level of knowledge and safe behavior, whilst the previously deoccupied territories like Kiev and Chernihiv regions, also Zhytomyr region, they demonstrate lower results. So we compared contaminated and uncontaminated areas. So 53% of Ukrainian kids who have a high or mid-level risk at contaminated, and those which are not contaminated or remoted from the front line, that level is even higher. So their knowledge level is lower compared to the mine dangers. And we also structured them by age and gender, and we concluded that the most risky category is boys, 14 to 17, and most of them are inclined to risk behavior, and younger boys and girls demonstrate safer behavior. That's why we managed to draw a portrait of the group with more risky behavior. So these are boys, older boys, partially these are people from rural area, from smaller population centers, from low-income families, as Mr. Minister said, those also children who are inclined to altruism, tend to help others, also those who spend more time on the telephone, watch videos on YouTube, online platforms, and also play shooter games and use the platform Twitch, Discord, and other platforms. So the level of awareness among those kids is lower compared to parents, and they don't tell parents where they play, and those can be potentially hazardous grounds. 70% of kids walk in the forests and shelter belts, so those areas can be contaminated and hazardous, also close to the bodies of water. Also, more than half of them can spend time in abandoned buildings, destroyed buildings near the railway tracks, which can be mined as well, and 30% of them even spend their leisure on the abandoned military positions or near military equipment, and the result of those things close to the front line. Also, we have analyzed the information sources, and we got an indicator that over 90% of kids received information about mine hazards, so the risky behavior can be manifested not because they lack information, but because they are influenced by other factors, because the boys and girls at the same level of awareness, girls demonstrate safer behavior. According to the results, we received the data that the key sources of informing about mine hazards are school classes and family and relatives who explain to the kids the dangers. Also in contaminated areas, more compared to uncontaminated, children mentioned that they get that information from military, from rescue workers, and their feedback was positive, that they liked talking to those people. And to the question from whom you would like to get that information, they said from the police and from rescue workers. It's more interesting to get information compared to the teacher. Also, there's the same question to the parents. We asked them whether it would be interesting for them if an employee would tell them, their family, their kids about mine safety. The majority of parents supported this idea and agreed. The parents mostly gave us positive feedback. They were interested in the survey. They wanted their kids to pass that survey, and the children as well, and they wanted to share it with the members in their communities, because at the end of the survey we presented to the kids in an interactive format their results, and provided additional information after they passed the test with regard to the rules of safety. So we informed in such a way that number of people about mine hazards and safety. So we also checked the sources, and we saw that among the kids who looked at cartoons and comics with patron dog, they demonstrated safe behavior. It was the highest percent, 60%, and other sources also demonstrated their efficiency. Like if we compare a kid who had this class at school with those who didn't, those who had demonstrated better results. Those who talked to rescue workers demonstrated better results compared to those who didn't. So all sources of informing about mine risks demonstrated their efficiency. And on this slide we can see computer games, because they can get this info from computer games. Those who get it from computer games, they demonstrate poor results, and those kids demonstrate higher risks. So those games stimulate risk behavior. With regard to leisure, by and large, we saw that the kids playing computer games demonstrate higher risk behaviors compared to the kids who spend time at home, read books, watch movies, and spend time with family. It's also an important component. For example, the parents who talk to the kids on multiple occasions about mine hazards, those demonstrated better results with regard to inclination to risk behavior, unlike those who talked only once or didn't talk at all to their kids. They demonstrated poorer results. So when a mom or dad talk to a kid about mine safety, those kids demonstrate better results in terms of safe behavior. And in contaminated areas, parents pay more attention to that issue. They talk more to their children, and they also try to educate themselves. What's interesting that we compared some questions to the parents and children, and it appears that on many instances children demonstrate better knowledge in terms of safety rules, and in more remote areas the parents addressed this responsibility to the schools, and they did not fully appreciate their role. If we're talking about informing and identification of risks, more than 80% of the surveyed teenagers managed to identify hazardous items such as an explosive ordnance, and they also managed to identify other items which do not look hazardous at the first look, and we asked them whether they could be dangerous in unknown locations. More than 80% of kids answered that in unknown locations those items can be dangerous.
Yes, we were told that mines can be placed in flashlights, in the toys, in the balls. So that's children were informed about that. And our last slide is how children are informed about the warning signs. It's quite high. So children know and can detect the mine signs. There are issues with mine tape because only 55% of children were able to identify mine tape. However, when mine tape combined with the mine sign, the identification of the sign is much higher. Like if only mine tape, children don't recognize it as the sign of a threat. And among children who show high or medium dangerous behaviors, they showed the poorest results. So also children said that sometimes these signs can be broken, scattered, mine tape can be laying on the floor, and there are the reported practices of removing these mine pole signs by local populations. That's why we should highlight the essence of marking the dangerous areas, especially where close to children. Thank you, Ms. Tetyana. If we summarize results that you are seeing now in the presentation, the key results, we collected much more wider range of information on each topic we presented here. Yes, we see the high level of being informed by populations, and we can state that information campaigns that were conducted in Ukraine, they worked, and our activities in schools, they worked because not only teachers provide lessons there, and children state that they received information, EORI lessons a couple of times, and at some point they're becoming bored of that. What we can do in order to prepare the safe culture behavior among children, and here we provide certain recommendations on how to improve these safety factors, to pay more attention to how children conduct their leisure time, work more with parents, because also we should approach correctly the format in which schools and rescue officers are working with children. We can mention that edutainment can be the best format because format of a lecture is not always working for children. They're much more prone to embrace information through the play. So we also need to develop certain behavioral interventions that are tailored for each region. So they can be a part of the plan on Ihor that will be developed. And I want to pass the floor to Mr. Ihor Bezkaravainy, and he can tell a couple of words about that. I apologize for being late. I was attending the meeting of National Mine Action Authority, and we raised about a lot of important issues there. Like explosive ordnance risk education as a part of mine action and as a part of our strategy to achieving our goal of clearing Ukrainian lands. I will try formulate quite a difficult thought and opinion. And please understand it correctly. We are now moving from the phase of quick reaction to the planned activities of humanitarian dividing, how they should be conducted according to the international standard, and when we can foresee the situation, because we had counteroffensive activities in Kharkiv and Kherson Oblast, and they demanded more reactive, not proactive measures to be taken. Now we are in the conditions when mine action is a long-term activity, and we have to plan our actions accordingly. And when we talk about mine action and demining, people mention NTS, TS, demining, support of victims of demining, but we miss the point of explosive ordnance risk education. But prevention is can be the key in decreasing number of casualties, and this how we will decrease the need in supporting after victims after the incident. And we but the issue also, and I hope very much that the system that we are building of transition from quick reaction to planned activities, yes, please understand that this is all temporary, because we want counteroffensive again in order for us to move to quick reaction, fast demining of critical infrastructure. And the models that we already developed here at stable territories, we will scale them at newly occupied territories. Part of the Ihor is a part of strategy on mine actions that will be approved shortly, either by the resolution of Cabinet of Ministers or by the President, but it doesn't matter who will approve it. But what's important that UNICEF and other international partners who are working in the area of explosive ordnance risk education, we tried to include this topic into that strategy and into the action plan for the first 3 years of implementation of this strategy. Thank you for the important work that you have done. Yes, I want to highlight again that Ihor is it's a very important part of mine action, not a secondary. No, it has not a secondary role. And I can apologize for being late. Thank you, Mr. Ihor. Thank you, esteemed speakers. Thank you to the research team. And we have time for Q&A. Please switch on your mic and present yourself. Andrei Kushnir, Head of Charity Organization of Mine Action. I want to draw attention of the audience that the similar research within the UNDP, under UNDP, was conducted in a couple of years ago, and it was called a gap survey. And I want for this important survey to be correlated with the previous survey, because our fund was involved in implementing that previous surveys, and a lot of findings that we see in this survey were shown in the survey where we participated, and I would say that the results of both surveys can be correlated, and we now see the problems that youth and adults, they are well informed, but they don't build up safe behavior models. So according to last survey, that was conducted in 21 and year 20, that the balance, the core balance was almost 50-50. So that's all from me, just for us to be able to use comprehensively that surveys. So we want to compare those two surveys, not to combine, because things that were before full Tkalych invasion, they are not relevant now to current situation, because things that worked then and now, they're totally different. And I want to mention that within the scope of a coordination mechanism and in cooperation of Mine Action Cluster and on Ihor working group, we working hard on bringing together all relevant surveys. Such kind of surveys within our working groups we are discussing, and we will use for our program interventions. Thank you, Nadia Garanch, Sharif, Demining. Thank you for researchers for such fundamental work. Our organization as Mine Action Operator is involved in consulting services on developing brochures and other materials to build up safe behavior among children. And so I was so surprised that any materials that are developed, whether it is developed by UNICEF or other organizations, they all promote safe behavior among children. And from my experience, I discovered a recent gap in my activities, that sometimes initiatives can be risky. We saw that the fact that not all developed materials are relevant to best practices that are adopted and disseminated by UNICEF. For example, it is difficult to bring in the model of behaviors, don't comment, don't touch, and with the model of game, when children get to kind of play around with the model. So when I saw cases of 3D models of mines, we as a consulting organization cannot say that there are certain things that are not okay during the trainings. Yes, and as an instructor myself, practicing instructor, I want to say that there are certain practices that might pose certain ambiguities in approaches of trainings. I don't think it's possible to double check again all training materials on Ihor, and whether we have any initiative coming soon that can introduce into recommendations and best practices, for example, that are brought up by UNICEF. So just what can be included into the Ihor trainings and what is not applicable, however clever or smart could be such approaches, and whether we will have any level of responsibility among such actors, not because we want to prosecute somebody, but it's a matter of safety and saving lives. I like clever questions when, especially when it's difficult to give answer to this such a questions. Last time we had a meeting on My Action meeting. We have representative from UNICEF, and there was initiative on developing a national standard on explosive ordnance risk education. So this work will start soon, and everyone who wants to work on that subject, please join, and let's do this important work together. I'm very glad we have such questions, because we are asking these questions ourselves every day, because if we compare what we have been doing a year ago and now, and how we approach to the behavior of our children, how we study psychology of our children, we understand that children of the perception of children of year 5-7 is totally different from the perception of children at age of 10-17, and this what survey was about. That's why our mobile classes are having police officers, and we're working in secondary schools.
We continuously change them, and these are not standards. Standards should be defined by specialists. It's also surveys which are practiced in other countries. We refer also to the practice of countries, post-war countries. That's the Ihor and the culture which we discussed today, safe behavior of our children, how it will be perceived and how it will be put in the heads of our children. But we are talking about upbringing in a family, about education in the school, in the kindergarten, and so on. That's why, as of today, the Ministry of Interior in the first place focused its efforts on secondary schools. And we we get education together with the teachers, because the inspector on safety is not an enforcement officer, it's the person who conducts some preventative work. That's why we also learn. I'll give you an example. The rescuers mentioned about that. When we were told that a kid of 5-7 years old, when we give them that grenade or mock-up to touch, to feel it, their psychologists that they will take it in their hands anyway, because if they take a mock-up and then they will take the real grenade in their hands. That's why we changed our approach to delivering that information. And Ukraine, as Russia uses new mines from 2022-2023, developed in those years and produced in these recent years, we will face with the new challenges. So people engaged in ERRE, the researchers should update those curricula on a monthly basis. So we have to be prepared, and the important thing is to select the right people who will provide that education. Those should be specially trained for that. Also, I'll supplement that in the coordination mechanism with the ministry and international stakeholders, with the state or public, we are discussing how that standard will look like. All the accredited associations with the Center Anti-Mine Action, they have to be engaged in this coordination mechanism, and as hosts, I can mention that there are online courses for rescuers, for police, how to deliver mine education to children. And we can answer one last question. It looks like our researchers and honored speakers disclosed all the information. Please speak into the mic.
Can we please ask you to sit on this table and use...
Maybe we can take a seat.
Do we have to repeat from the beginning? No. Okay, no, I was saying that it's a common issue that is found in many countries affected by EU threat, and mainly because when there be too many operators that are not well coordinated, it creates such issue. So I would strongly recommend first a reinforcement of the national authority on the quality management system. If you don't have a comprehensive quality management system with a good accreditation process and with several QA team who are able to conduct external QA on organization in the field, then that's when you have such issue when I would say NGO in fact do what they want, and it's not really what probably UNICEF, who I remember UNICEF as the lead on the Ihor within the MAGS groups, and the Main Action Pillar. That's maybe something that should be taken into consideration to reinforce the authority to conduct appropriate, comprehensive quality management in the field with operator. The accreditation system is here for that. Thank you.
Дякую вам. Yes, please.
Thank you.
Important point to all of us, and therefore we're very pleased to have Minister of Economy and of course Minister of Interior and others leading that work, because I think it's not the area where we can experiment, right? So we're talking about safety of children, safety of people. So standardization is critical, including for education and training materials. But I think what research gives us clear signal is that delivery model is the area that we need to be more creative, because if you standardize, content should be standardized, but how we reach the target audience, this is where we need to leave some space to creativity and I would say a certain level of improvisation, while we understand that critical content part should be authorized and approved by the state institutions. Thank you.
Дякую вам. Саме так, тобто...
Thank you. That's right. Please use these research results which are available. They were put 7 minutes ago on the UNICEF website. Please learn how to effectively deliver EORE to kids, and and you can use international materials from the website, from National Police, from SES. We're grateful to our speakers and researchers, and wish you have a safe behavior.